Call to order the City of Cedar Falls Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, February 28th, 2018. Mr. Sturch, could we have the roll call, please?
Thank you, Ms. Oberly. Atkins.
Here.
Arnston.
Here.
Russo.
Here.
Bartley.
Here.
Holst.
Here.
Leeper.
Here.
Oberly.
Here.
Saul.
Here.
And Wingert.
Here.
Our next is approval of the minutes from our February 14th meeting. Is there a motion and a second to approve those minutes?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of approval signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Thank you. Our minutes are approved. At this point, we'll open up the floor for any public comment. Seeing none, we'll move on to our old business items. Our first item is a Central Business District site plan review for the Hampton Inn. And Mr. Sturch, if you would update us on this item, please.
Thank you. We discussed this site plan for the Hampton Inn at the last meeting, and it's a new hotel, proposed Hampton Inn hotel at the corner of Main and First Street on the north side of First Street. The property is located in the downtown overlay, which kicks in the review through the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. It's in a C3 zoning district. And just, again, going back through some history of this property after the broom factory was removed, there was a couple studies done on this site, and the city hired a consultant for that location, kind of looked at a mixture of uses, building locations, building heights, building uses. And eventually the Riverview Gardens was developed. That was part of the property owner kind of came before a Planning and Zoning Commission for a 5 to 6 story building there up on the upper left. That kind of followed along with the sale of the property to Eagle View Partners, which is part of the State Street redevelopment site. And the Riverwalk plan was adopted and implemented with River Place plan on State Street, and that called out for a number of buildings, mainly 3 to 4 floor townhomes and 6 to 8 floor structure with condos. Moving along with the site plan, again, just going through some of those areas. The proposed use is a 6-story hotel. It meets all the setbacks for the C3 standards, and it includes 132 parking stalls for that hotel use, and that correlates to the number of rooms in the hotel and employees. So again, those setbacks and parking meet those standards. Just looking at the site plan element, running through those areas around the site plan, you got the flood wall along the north side. The dumpster is located just behind the schoolhouse. The access off of First Street will have a new parking lot there for the schoolhouse, and then a parking kiosk to enter the parking area. The trail is going to be relocated, and that's part of the levy plan. Instead of a sharp curve around that opening, and they're going to kind of soften that curve up a little bit. So the opening is going to be shifted to the east, closer to the Main Street Bridge. So you can kind of see on the drawing there, the opening is just to the west of that. So we're going to add a new opening there and close the old one. Bike racks there on the north side kind of make that connection into the trail, and they have that opportunity for guests and employees to use that. And then again, the hotel is situated right off the corner of Main and First. Landscaping, if you remember last meeting, we looked at the landscaping. There's ample landscaping in and around the parking lot and around the building. And then staff had that comment about adding some shrubs along First Street. So those elements are satisfied. You can kind of see some additional plantings along the 4 stalls there. Access into the site, again, it's off First Street. And then along with this, fire department wants that secondary access, and then there would be modifications to the trail to allow that. And then again, that would only be open for emergency purposes only in case a fire truck would block the main access onto First Street. So that would allow, the exit of guests that can go out that area. That area would be controlled by removable bollards. So it's going to be just open when those when needed during those times. The aerial photo shows the driveway kind of right across Washington Street on the south side. The idea is to shift that driveway to the west. They're going to rebuild it kind kind of straighten it out and then add the parking lot. So we want that lined up with the south side of Washington Street, on the south side of First Street. Moving on to design of the building. Last meeting, the commission had some comments on the design, and the architect went back and made some adjustments. The smaller drawing kind of shows some more vertical elements and how that relates to the materials, and the revised drawing really creates that base, so to speak, in a common material with that brick, more of a gray or gray brick on that base area or the first floor. They did add additional windows there this is the south elevation along First Street. They had additional windows there just west of the corner entry, and that's the lobby area. And as you can see, some keystones were added on the top of the windows there along those gray vertical elements there. Again, carrying that design around the building there this is on the east side facing Main Street, kind of wraps it around the same design feature with that. And then moving to the back, again, the same base around the hotel, and then those window designs with those keystone features. Along the back side of that, and you kind of see it in the perspective. So as we get into a discussion with this, I want the commission to look at that and see if that creates that strong base around the first floor. That was the comment brought back from the commission, and if there's any additional treatments that are needed on this building. So just want to kind of put that in your thought with the discussion on that. So again, we have that's mostly brick around the building. There's some EIFS treatments where those balconies are and around the top cornice features. The windows, again, precast lintels and sills. Again, in the lintels, there's some keystone features that kind of bring out some of those design elements of other buildings in the downtown. Got some horizontal banding around that first floor, and then carries through some of those gray brick features. Again, getting to the height, 6 stories. The hotel height is 69 feet tall, and then the overall height with a parapet is just over roughly 83 feet tall. So it does have there are taller. This is a taller building than the other buildings in the downtown, but again, it reverts back to that Riverwalk development that really kind of set the motion on that taller building on that corner. So this does have that entryway. It is a prime location of that, so we want to get into those design features and height issues when we discuss this. Moving along to lights, the lights around the parking lot, they'll match the lights that are down in the 100 block, the new parking lot behind that MU2 building that will be going up here soon. Antique lights are going to be around the building, and again, the existing double-headed feature lights on the driveway will be replaced along the edge of the driveway. There's a utility easement located along the north side of the trail, so those lights will have to be field located when those are put in place. But the idea is to kind of carry the streetscape theme west of the driveway that has those lights there, and so this will kind of fill in that gap from the driveway down to Main Street intersection. The dumpster, we didn't look at the dumpster last time, but this was the design that was submitted. It's an EIFS concrete block dumpster. It's kind of half of it's a shed and the other half is the dumpster area. So that is located on the north side or right off the edge of the parking lot just behind the schoolhouse. And again, the levee construction, you can kind of see that opening where the trail is. It's going to be shifted to the east. And right now that site is used for storage and construction materials. During that, they're doing the plaza area, or the Peter Melendi Park. They're digging out some material and storing that. And that will kind of run through May and June time period, and that's kind of set up with an easement right now over the site. And then as that leaves the site, the chamber building is proposed to be located elsewhere, so they're going to move that. And then when the hotel comes in, we want to make sure they're within those construction limits of their property during that. So the levee will be done They're going to still have that bank. Really, they're only going to add a couple feet to the wall there. That's on that picture. Stormwater drainage, it's going to basically be contained within the site, kind of drained to the middle, and then into an underground system, and then released into the storm sewer along First Street. Part of this is an easement vacation, so there is a 15-foot utility easement running through the middle of the site. That is going to be vacated. With that, right now there's Mediacom occupying that easement, so that they have been notified and they're planning to relocate that utility outside of that easement area. So our recommendations, we want to make that approved, the site plan, so they can meet all the technical requirements, relocate the driveway in line with Washington Street. Again, the site will be used for levee construction for, within that temporary construction easement, and then after that expires, we want to make sure construction of the hotel and parking lot stays within the confines of that property, and they'll do some grading to blend in with the existing toe of the levee. And then comments with commission members regarding anything on the site. We want to talk about design of the building and what they've made on changes from last time. We have the developer here. If you have any questions for him.
Invite the applicant up to address the commission. State your name and address, please.
Yep. Om Patel, 420 3rd Avenue, Crowville, Iowa.
Any questions or updates? Anything you want to share with us regarding the changes to the design? Or
Sure. I mean, we, after the last planning and zoning hearing, we went back to the design board, met with our interior designers, our architects, and were able to kind of brainstorm different ideas to see what kind of elements we can add to the design that we presented last time. We hope that what you saw today is what you were looking for. We did, make those enhancements to the windows, added the base to differential between the base and the rest of the stories, and hoping that's exactly what you were looking for. So, any questions, comments?
I think you did a nice job of adding the keystones and the base. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, this design appears to be used elsewhere in the country, and it's not hard to find them on a couple of Google searches. And it appears that ours is been customized to the location, at least different than the ones that are elsewhere in the country. So it does look like it blends into our neighborhood pretty good. So the changes were appreciated.
Thanks, Brian. And just to add to that, so there's 3 currently across the country that have this L-shaped design. One's actually in Des Moines that we developed back in 2012. So that was the first one ever developed, and then there's one in Memphis and Nashville. So this is the 4th one, and all of those are downtown properties. Similar design. The one we did in Des Moines was also 6 stories, and that was in 2012, I believe.
Yeah, the thing that was common about all of those was the at-corner entrance and exit to bring people right to the intersection,
Right.
which is very appropriate.
Yeah. And just even in terms of the building elements or the exterior elements, the prototypical Hampton Inns are all EFIS. So we were able to, I think we're at 80% brick in this development.
Okay.
Excuse me, has your architect been on site?
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this item? Please come up and state your name and address.
Mark Kittrell, downtown developer and resident. And I thought I'd show up tonight. I guess I actually was here a couple of weeks ago, a couple of meetings ago, talking about the MU2 project, and forgot about that we had this one coming up as well. So I did want to make sure to be on hand and sort of talk about the fact that this is the last piece of the master plan River Walk development, I think David talked about earlier. And we couldn't be more pleased with the developer that we found, or the hotel operator that we found here with Hawkeye Hotels. I'll tell you just the comments that we're hearing from the downtown is our people are very excited to have a great operator and a great property here, and I think that they think it's going to have a great impact on downtown. And I think it's important that the committee hear that. I also think it's great that we're in the company of Memphis and Nashville and Des Moines and, now Cedar Falls. So it's a great property, and we're pleased to be able to bring you a great developer to do it. So thank you.
Carol Lilly, Community Main Street, 206 Main Street. I would reiterate what Mark said. The downtown community is very excited to have a hotel at that location and have been very pleased that we have been involved in the process to be able to make comments and contribute to the design elements and appreciate that. And might not be the exact time to say so, but looking forward, I know that city staff is having lots of discussions with the people on First Street for a project further on down the road, but we do hope that the safety of the intersection at First Street is part of the discussion with the DOT, and that it's a safe crossing for guests, so they are able to enjoy all the amenities that downtown has to offer. So we appreciate their investment in Cedar Falls.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and we'll close the public comments and ask if there's anything else the applicant would like to address. Bring it back to commission. Any other questions, discussion?
No, I move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. There's a second. Please go ahead and vote. We have all ayes and one no. So that item is approved. We'll move on to City Council recommending approval. Our next old business agenda item is the Central Business District Site Plan Review, the relocation of the former Chamber Building. And Ms. Lehman, if you would introduce this item, please.
Thank you. So as mentioned, this item was presented at the last P&Z meeting. So I will just quickly go through a quick overview of the project and then kind of just walk through the changes for today's discussion. So as David, in the previous presentation, the current chamber building is located where the hotel is planned to be built. So at this time, that building either needs to be moved or demolished. So Community Main Street is proposing to move the building to the proposed site shown here on the slide, kind of on the southeast corner of the River Place development, right by the water reclamation plant entrance. So they're planning to utilize the building as their office, as their main office downtown. And since it is located in the overlay, it does require a site plan and facade review by the commission. So that's why it's here in front of us again today. Giving a little bit more background, as noted before, the building is being located at the southeast corner of the River Place development, in the area circled there on the image on the left side of the screen, the bottom corner, and then a zoom in of that area shown there as well. So in the master plan, and then later in the landscaping and site plan for the SSR2 building, it was shown that there would be 8 spots provided at this location and then 10 trees as well. So for consistency, these were items that staff were looking for in the review of the proposed building. So the image that you see here is the updated site plan that was resubmitted for the relocation. The items here listed on the slide are all the items that staff reviews in terms of site plan review elements when reviewing a site plan. At the last meeting, we walked through all of them, and all of them were met. The only one that came up, they provided additional plantings and then parking. So those are the two that we talked about, landscaping and parking. So they did provide extra parking as requested. So they're now proposing 4 trees and 6 arborvitae for the 10 that we were addressing in the previous master plan. And then in addition to they did provide 8 stalls at that time, but because you're providing a building now at that location, ADA requirements require that there be 1 ADA stall that address or access to a building. So they did address that. They did provide incorporate one handicap stall into their design, but based on the, I guess, the overall area of the pavement, a handicap stall requires extra square footage, a little bit more width so people can get in and out of the vehicle. So that dropped the parking to 7 stalls, so went from 8 to 7. So for consistency with the master plan, approved site plan, staff highly encourages that one additional stall be provided so that 8 is consistent between the two. So that's one item I'd like to discuss later on in the presentation a little bit more. So the second part of the design is facade review. So the 6 elements that staff reviews in the facade review are listed on this screen. At the last meeting, we did walk through them, and all but architectural features the commission was happy with and felt that the building met that area and really blend into that section of the downtown. So I'm going to delve into architectural features a little bit and show what has been done. The images on the slide are those changes, but I'll zoom into one, specifically the front section, to discuss those here in the next slide. So before I do that, I wanted to show you a before picture of what was presented previously at the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So I'll give you a minute to look at that. And then this was the resubmittal of the design that we received. So in summary, what was done, the brick colors were darkened to better match the area that the building was being proposed in. So you have the nice coffee blend and then that city brick Elk Creek color. So the original bricks from the building will not be reused. In order to do the move, the bricks have to be taken off. So they will be replacing all those bricks. The original bricks will not be incorporated, but the roof will be. So the roof of the former chamber building will stay the same. So in addition to that, they added cast stone sills, which are indicated as C. I know it's a little hard to read, but so underneath the windows, they added little sills to incorporate the design of the previous building, the way it originally looked. And then they also provided, I guess the original building had a soldier coursework, and basically what that is, it's that, just use the mouse. It's these bricks here that are under the eave, and they're oriented differently than elsewhere on the building, so they create a little bit of architectural interest, and then they also change the color of it to also draw attention to it. So I thought that was a nice element. And they also, again, kept that horizontal band there along the side or along the bottom of it to keep, I guess, to add that interest to it. So these were the proposed changes that have been done to the building, and they do match and accentuate the original building's architectural features and match those within the downtown. So with that, the Community Development Department recommends approval of the proposed site plan with the stipulations outlined below. Again, meeting all technical review comments, which have been met, and then for discussion to provide one more parking space as approved in the River Place Master Plan and that SSR 1 site plan review, and then any other comments or directions specified by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
We'll invite the applicant to address the commission if you have any comments.
Carol Lilly, 206 Main Street, for Community Main Street. I just wanted to share with you the 2 brick colorings that we have selected to help address some of those questions about what those specifics would be. So this, as Iris has shown on the picture, but is the lighter, of course, the lighter section, and then this is the lower part, and then the accent that would be across the top. So these work very well together. In addition, work very well with biking pump across the street. So we looked at those to try and incorporate those. As far as the parking goes, we tried to utilize the existing space. It is our understanding the River Place Master Plan has incorporated the number of spots that they were required to, just not in the exact areas. The information that I have from them is that they have physically verified 316 parking stalls, which are indoor and outdoor combined. They were required to provide 297. So with the additional 7 that we would be adding, that would be a total of 223. I must say, I did not go out and count those, nor did we, so, but this is the information that we have from them, and I'm hopeful that that 7 will be able to accommodate the needs, or what you know, to fit that requirement. If not, we can certainly put street parking out in front and add 1 spot to get that 8. But to get the 8 in that location, we would have to move one of those really big light poles, so we would prefer to be able to shift that spot to the front of the building if required. So that would be our request to accommodate that.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to this item?
Me again, I promised last time. Mark Kittrell, River Place downtown developer. I think we always talk parking, so I just thought I would be on hand. And I wanted to also say I walked here tonight, so we're doing our part. I think the most important thing I want to just talk about in this particular site is this is kind of the back area. It's our largest area of parking in the site and in the site plan overall. The area actually where this building is going in has a lot of daytime parking that's empty typically. There's also a fairly regular, I'd say 40 to 50% of the parking along 4th Street in that area that doesn't get used. Typically it gets used by Viking pump employees during the day, but there is the Viking lot sort of adjacent to that too. So there's a fair amount of parking in that area. It's becoming the area where a lot of employees for downtown park typically during the daytime use, and I think, you know, we still have probably plenty that's there, that is in that area. But I just wanted to point out that that is an area that's not, we talk a lot about parking. This isn't the 100-block, you know, retail parking lot. This is an area of downtown that really has a fairly good supply of parking, and particularly in the daytime, seems like we've got good vacancies back there. So just wanted to talk about that. Any other questions on parking, I'll be happy to take.
Anyone else to speak to this item? Bring it back to commission for discussion.
As I mentioned the last time, I have to abstain on this item.
I have a question regarding, in general, not because it's chamber. It looks like this piece of land is being transferred, ownership is being transferred to a new entity.
Not at this time, no.
What do you mean, not this time?
So right now, the proposal is to move the building to that site. The land itself hasn't been subdivided or anything, so at this time, at this moment, through this request, the building will just be on there, but it'll be part of the same development.
But the land
come
will
back.
be transferred, the ownership will be.
That's eventually the plan, yes.
Okay.
You'll probably be seeing a plat in the next few months for this split off that south end.
Okay, I'll rephrase my question then. Is this not C3?
It is C3 zoning, yes.
So why is parking being required?
So in the C3 zoning, parking is not required for commercial or office uses. That said, part of the River Place development approval was that all parking would be provided for residential uses. And they were gracious enough to provide extra parking as well. So they do have more parking than what is the minimum required. And there was, I'm sure you remember, lots of discussion about parking on this site. So because it's part of that River Place development, because the River Place development was more or less promised these stalls to the city and to the public, that is why we would like to see that consistency here, because at this time, it's really just an addition of a building on an approved plan.
So if the timing were different and the platting was done first, in other words, it was the property was transferred to Community Main Street or Joe Smith, then would that same master plan requirement of those 8 parking stalls be required if someone new? Because now it's a new entity, it's a new piece of land, it's a new minor plat.
So I think you're putting the cart before the horse. In some ways, you're not wrong, but it's not quite like that. So it's not a new lot, it's not new development. If they did create a new lot there, they'll have to go through a minor platting process. So
Right.
those 8 spots, that was part of the development plan by River Place. So
Right.
we'd want to see those spots somewhere else. But yes, if it were, let's say, a completely new site, not developed, no questions or anything like that, they put a building there, yes, a commercial building would not be required to provide parking. Does that answer your question?
It answers the question, but it doesn't make sense to me. I'll just register that it does not make sense to me. If we're in a C3 and we don't require parking, because this is not residential, this is purely commercial. I understand where you're saying that right now it's a part of the master plan, but if I came in and bought it next year, that little piece of land, and put an office on it, would I still be required to put 8 parking stalls on it?
Anybody who would build on this site it'd be the same process, I guess. If you were to split this lot off and create a new lot and want a re-division or re-show parking, we would need an update to the master plan. So there are different steps that could be taken, but the way it's presented today, it's a building on the site that needs to follow what was approved before.
Okay.
An example might be that River Place might decide tomorrow to sell all of their parking lots for another housing project, and we wouldn't allow that to happen.
Iris, can you address the discrepancy between the figures that Carol was using then for how they're counting the stalls available?
So it's the first time that I've heard that something else was done at the site than what was approved. So the city hasn't been in those discussions about stalls being moved. So if they were, we are not aware of that. So if there was, I guess, documentation showing that, where additional, I guess how the current site, where things have changed, if they provide an extra stall somewhere else, then yes, if they provide the same amount, that's really what it comes down to. But given that we haven't gotten any documentation, simply an email with numbers that's not enough for us.
And Carol mentioned the possibility of adding that extra place on the street parking. Is it possible to bring up the map and?
Yes, so the idea would be to put it here. And that could be something that could be done.
It just seems to make sense to allow them to allow that to be done rather than taking out a big light pole and having to figure that out. If that's workable with the staff, I would agree to that.
Well, I guess as to the building, I think the color changes look like it updates the look and more or less matches the other things that, or at least attempt to match the buildings that are adjacent to it on the other part of the River Place lot. So I think there's some nice changes that have happened there with those colors. Those would be appropriate. That was some of our discussion last time, if I recall. Anybody?
I agree. I think it looks good. I move to approve.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Go ahead and register your votes. We have one abstention and the rest ayes. That item is approved. We'll go recommending approval to City Council. Our next item of old business is a public hearing on a zoning ordinance and map amendments. This is terminology changes pursuant to House File 134 and consistent among city codes. Just note that the notice of public hearing for this item was published in the Courier on February 21st. At this point, I would ask for a motion to approve, to receive and file the notice of public hearing.
So moved?
Is there a second? Motion and a second. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. At this point, we will have Ms. Lehman update us on this item.
Thank you. So in April of 2017, House File 134 was passed, and basically what it said is that all municipalities could not use the term, or cannot use familial or non-familial status or relationships to determine occupancy of rental properties. So with that having passed, it basically rendered our entire city's rental code unusable, because the code was basically solely based around the concept of familial and non-familial. So because of that, in December of 2017, Cedar Falls City Council adopted changes to the rental code addressing that. Those changes were all terminology based, and for consistency, city staff is now going through the rest of city code so that the same type of language and definitions are used throughout. So that's what this request is in front of you today for the zoning update. It's the same type of terminology changes, definitions being updated to be consistent with the rental code. And I know, Leanne, you asked last time about the definition of unit, and I kind of fumbled through that, but it is purely building-based, so structural. And I included that definition there for you as well, or anybody else that was curious. But that's, in essence, what is being proposed today. I won't walk through the code sections. It is the entire zoning code that is being updated. But if you have any questions on specific sections, or if the public has any questions about specific sections, I'd be happy to answer those. But in summary, and with that, the Community Development Department recommends approval of the proposed changes to the zoning code.
Go ahead and declare the public hearing on this item open and invite anyone who would like to comment to come up to the microphone. Seeing no public comments, we'll go ahead and we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission for discussion and any questions of staff.
Seems pretty straightforward to me. So I'd recommend we approve, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please go ahead and register your vote.
And I didn't care.
All ayes on that item. So those zoning ordinance map amendment items, recommend approval of those items also for City Council. That concludes our old business. Moving into new business, our first item is a vacation of public right-of-way on Dallas Drive. And Mr. Sturch, if you would introduce this one.
Thank you. We received a petition from Deary Motors to vacate the portion of Dallas Drive from University Avenue to Idaho Road, and that's what's presented to the commission tonight. It's just a one-block section of that roadway. It's in between their office dealership and their dealership lot. So when we look at right-of-way vacations, we want to look at what are the benefits to vacate that right-of-way, if there are any, and what the use will be in the future. So basically, removing this section of Dallas Drive will improve the access management along University Avenue or Idaho Road, and that basically signifies that you're taking away that driveway. It kind of funnels the traffic to the other intersections. As you drive on University Avenue, really Dallas Drive serves as a right-in, right-out, so you're going easterly and you can only exit easterly. Same with Tucson Drive, and then if you want to go west, basically kind of go down to Tucson or Boulder and then go around the roundabout and then head back west. So that's kind of the access issues in that area. We look at, Dallas Drive is a low-volume street, and then in that area there are kind of eliminates the pedestrian conflicts through there and vehicle conflicts. The photo down at the lower left of the picture kind of shows how the vehicles can back in or back out of those parking stalls, and then there's a transport truck there as they load the vehicles, on and off the truck in this area. So basically, getting rid of the right-of-way kind of opens this area up for the driveway, so to speak, into the dealership, and it provides that really crossing traffic for pedestrians and a place to place that transport truck there. It also has some, you can kind of see in the picture, there's the exit to the service bay area, so it kind of eliminates some visibility issues when the public is traveling up and down the street, so that's another benefit to that. So the proposal really is to, the picture on the right is there are a lot of utilities through there, so the utilities will be maintained or stay in place, so we'd have to maintain the access and utility easements over the entire width of that right-of-way. Really, there's no building additions that are going to go here. It's really, the petitioner really wants to reconstruct this street and kind of create their own driveway. Looking at our 5-year plan or pavement management plan, that's really not on our horizon to do that. So the owner wants to rebuild that, fix some drainage issues. There's some ponding there at the corner, so they're going to be looking at installing storm sewer through there. And again, we want the feel as this road is rebuilt is it's really their driveway, and it allows that place to park and pedestrians to go through, cross it, so to speak. So the owner will maintain that area for in the future, so it'd be a snow removal or any repairs made to that area. So moving along, we want to recommend approval of this vacation request, again with these stipulations to maintain those access and utility easements over the entire area of the right-of-way. Again, Deary Brothers and their successors will maintain the roadway, and that includes snow removal. And then we want to take a look at the plans as they develop for that reconstruction to make sure that, you know, it looks and feels and it actually uses the driveway area and kind of doesn't give the public that sense that it's still a street, so to speak. So we have the applicant, I think, here for any questions.
They've agreed to everything that's on that proposal as far as maintenance and
yeah, that's part of their submittal is the plan for that area.
I think it saves long-term on maintenance, and like you guys had in there, it saves on potential conflict with pedestrians and vehicles, as I'm sure they're going across from lot to dealership all the time. And so I would recommend that gets done quickly as possible, just for maintenance savings.
And the access to coming in and off of Dallas Drive into the neighborhood is still there, correct? Or there's no blocking of that road?
No, it'll be open.
Everything's
so
wide
it'll be a
open.
kind of a drive-through driveway. So
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay.
So
Got it.
That land looks like
people
it,
could cut through there if they want.
that land looks like it belongs with the.
Right, exactly.
Looks like it belongs with the dealership and not as a street when you look at it, you know, just going out there.
It does today, kind of, yeah. All right.
Are there any comments
with
from
a
the
note.
applicant? Or- State your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lonergan. My mom is here tonight. I'm speaking on her behalf. She lives at 2917 Dallas Drive. We have a number of concerns about this application. First of all, I should say that will limit access. My parents' house is, if you see that short section of Dallas, and then it goes to Idaho Road. They're the third house on Dallas Drive. So it will limit their ability to access their home. They live on that end of the street. I think probably more concerning from my mom's side of the world is, I think probably the best way for me to describe that would be give you a little context on past history. As it currently stands now, there's been a lot of light pollution and sound pollution with having the dealership there. What you all may not be privy to, the information you may not understand, is that Deary and Associates own the houses along Idaho Road. They own all those houses. So I think the concern from my mom's side of the world is that this could be the first step in going ahead and vacating Idaho Road as well. So if that were to happen, then there would be continued light pollution, continued noise pollution, and a definite devaluation of the homes that live along that end of Dallas Drive. So this is something that's really concerning to my mom. So that's why I wanted to come this evening. Does that make sense, or can I give you any more context on that?
I think that
Pardon?
still stays open, so I don't think.
It stays open, but my point, I think my overriding point is that, again, the Deary family owns all the houses along Idaho Road. If Dallas Drive is vacated, I see that, and my mom sees that as the first step, and then having that section of Idaho Road vacated as well. If that would happen, my sense is that there would be additional expansion of parking, of lighting, of noise. As it is now, there's considerable light pollution. My mom's backyard is lit up very, very brightly, and especially up on her second floor. During the day, they do overhead announcements, which in this day and age seems really unnecessary. There are many other ways they could be communicating. So again, I see that it's already a devaluation of their property as it exists now. Again, I see this as one step in continuing to expand in that neighborhood. It'll be a devaluation for the homes that live on that end of the street.
Maybe the city staff can make a comment on Idaho Road. That doesn't seem like something that would be reasonable to ever close in my mind, but with the city.
Yeah, I think taking away Idaho Road from Dallas to Tucson or all the way over to Boulder, it'd create roundabouts at the north end of the road. So I think that's something we would take a serious look and want to maintain that as a public right-of-way.
Are those houses that Deary and Associates own, I'm sure they're in the residential district?
Yeah, that's the border of the commercial and
So
residential.
it couldn't even be produced to a commercial.
So if anything, they would have to, if they'd vacate that, we'd probably want to look at moving that road to the south end of those properties, and it would have to go through a rezoning process, and that's just something we're not looking at down the road.
I wouldn't support that, Idaho being closed. I don't think anybody up here probably would either.
Yeah. Yeah, because that would totally, I mean, Dallas jogs over there, right? I mean, it's just a little offset and it runs many blocks there. And you wouldn't want to have basically a big dead end coming down there. Idaho is really going to always have to be open, I think, because that's, that's a major, that's the regular access, I'm sure, for all those people on who live on Dallas.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak to it, or the applicant, address any concerns?
Scott Grinstead from John Deere Motors. We're not looking to close the road by any means. This actually was something that was brought to us by the city administration, was taking over the road. We've been maintaining the road as far as snow removal for the last 20-plus years. And actually looking to, the only changes in making to that road is so that it drains better and we don't have water issues like we have now. By moving this construction with what we're doing now, we're just going to bring everything together to make the flow better. So it's not looking to divert traffic, move traffic, eliminate traffic, add lights, add noise. It's just trying to bring all the properties together.
Any other questions from the commission? The applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say again, I think that's a bit disingenuous. What other reason would there be for John Deere Motors to buy all those houses along that road, along that street, unless they had plans down the road to do something to change it? There's really no reason for them to own that property otherwise.
Well, I appreciate your concerns about Idaho. I think they're legitimate. I don't think that's our task here tonight, but certainly would be a concern in the future. But I would support closing of Dallas if they're going to maintain it.
Would you like to put that in the form of a
I would
motion?
move that we approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. You can go ahead and register your votes. We have one nay and the rest ayes. So that item is approved. We'll recommend approval for City Council.
We're going to move that towards City Council. We have to set a day for public hearing, and then it requires 3 readings on that to vacate that.
Thank you. Our last item of new business is a Pinnacle Ridge minor plat. And Mr. Sturch, if you would introduce this item.
Yeah, we received a minor plat for Pinnacle Ridge minor plat. It's located at the south end of the Pinnacle Ridge development. This was a new subdivision that was approved about a year ago, and they were building houses down in this area off of Oster Parkway. So there's 3 lots at the west end of Green Creek Road identified in the map with the red box around it. Basically, the original plat had 3 lots. It's actually 18, 19, 20, and 21, so we're going to just focus on 19 through 21. And the minor plat really involves the creation or the merging of those 3 into 2 lots. Normally, we would sign off on this. It wouldn't come to the Planning and Zoning Commission, but as you can see in the original plat, they have those dashed lines which represent building lines. You got a front yard, side yard, and rear yard setback. Well, if the minor plat was approved, those building lines will stay on the lot, so it really kind of creates some building line setback issues. So that's why we have to run a minor plat through instead of a plat of survey, so to speak. So really it creates, merges lot 19 with the east half of lot 20, and then lot 21 with the west half of lot 20. And the lots are just going to be wider. They got a couple of builders there that they want to have a little bit bigger homes in this area, so no big issues with that, and we want to recommend approval of this minor plat.
Any applicants or any members of the public who'd like to speak to this item?
Good evening, Kyle Helen Engineering, here representing the applicant. I don't have anything to add to it. I think Dave did a fine job, but if you have any technical questions that I can try and answer, please feel free. Thank you.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve?
Motion, is there a second? Motion and a second, please register your votes.
Try that again.
Please try again.
There we go.
That item is all ayes and is approved, and we'll move on to City Council as well. That concludes our new business items. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned.